The National Economic Council, NEC, will make a decision on the establishment of state police in January 2025, following submissions from 36 states on the matter. But the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, has yet to present its position. This was part of the resolutions reached at the last NEC meeting for the year 2024, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima. State House correspondent Adesua Omoran reports.
It's the last gathering for the highest economic advisory body for the year 2024. The council addresses a wide range of issues, including the lingering creation of state police. After deliberations, the council confirms that all 36 states have now submitted their positions, with the exception of the Federal Capital Territory. Early indications show broad support from most states for the proposal.
Of course, FCT is not a state, it's territory, and they explain why they have not submitted. They gave reason, but 36 states have all submitted their own position on the submission of state police, and I want to say it here clearly that most of us are in agreement for the submission of state police. But today the council have decided to step down the discussion until the next council meeting, because we need to come up with a report from the secretariat, and after the report there will be deliberation in the next meeting that is likely taking place in January. And not only that, there's also a resolution in the last NEC meeting, which today the secretary have also agreed on that. There will be further stakeholders engagement after the final report and deliberation by the members of the NEC.
This marks a significant development in the ongoing debate over security reform, as state governments seek more autonomy to handle growing threats of violence and criminal activities in their regions. This development follows months of discussions, several missed ultimatums, and heightened concerns about the increasing insecurity across the country. Meanwhile, Finance Minister provides an update to the Economic Council detailing the financial situation of the Federation accounts and state indebtedness to the federal government.
Also reported that as regards the surpluses that states have with the federal government, that figure is currently 363.4 billion naira, while the states that have a deficit position with the federal government stands at approximately 16.6 billion naira.
On environmental concerns, the committee addressing desertification and flooding reported the disbursement of funds to ministries and agencies for flood relief. Chaired by the Kogi State Governor, the committee announces it will conclude its activities after fulfilling its mandate.
The Council noted all the prayers of the committee and also commended the chairman and members for discharging their tasks dutifully, and approved the recommendations for the disbursement of the balance of the funds approved for MDAs for the flood mitigation.
And in a bid to boost tourism and create jobs, the council considered a proposal for the establishment of Renewed Hope Creative Villages at historic sites nationwide. The initiative aims to transform cultural landmarks into thriving economic hubs.
The Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. You know, this is not one ministry that will come around all the time, but they had their day with the council today. The whole idea is for the ministry to be able to work, first with a lot of the subnationals, identify some of these heritage sites, identify some of these very historic locations, and see how they are readopted, into Renewed Hope Creative Village.
Adesua Omoran, Arise News.
All right, a lot to talk about there. But NEC meeting yesterday chaired by the VP and some outcomes. But of course, chief of that, which we're talking about this morning, is state police and the fact that we might be, inching closer and closer to the realization of that. Your take on this, Rufai?
But I'm not surprised, Ayo, because when you check most states of the country, or most parts of the country have some form of iteration of state police. Here we've got Amotekun, there's a Bubiagu. At some point, some people sort of shake it Gafasa. Benue State at some point had their own sort of state brigades. Zamfara had its own state brigade. Lagos has got a neighborhood watch iteration of some sort, so they say they don't want to be part of the Amotekun thing. So when you check almost every state, because of the rampant insecurity, and Amotekun pretty much started after the killing of the daughter of the Yoruba leader, Pashoranti's daughter. So there's been some level of iteration of some sort, But the questions have always been, so when they said most of the recommendations from the state reports now is saying that they are tilting towards that, easily, if the executive of the state wants it, most of the states will pass it then. It should not be a big deal as regards passing it. But the question is, how is it going to run? That's just it. There's been many iterations of how it's going to run, a proposal of how it's going to run. Should it still be anchored by the center? Should the center still, I'm talking about the center police, give an oversight? Should it run basically around the American model that is independent? We need to be able to find a proper iteration because we need watchdogs also. So it's not just a case of having state police. Who watches over them? Because we've had cases where, in all fairness, these state police have not been used to dabble into elections in Ondo and the likes, that you have Amotekun very strong. But in some parts, it's been said that the Bubiago has been used to chase political opponents, So you want a balancing act. You want an overarching authority to be able to look at the activities of these officers. Then secondly, arms deployments, the kind of arms they're going to use, and also how they're going to be paid and funded, how they're going to be kitted. I mean, those are numerous questions. And as regards the, the village, for creative arts, that's a very good one. But I think the government should also partner with pre-existing ones. Kulia Falana has a smart, very wonderful one, going on somewhere in Komo, in Oyo State. And there are other couple of pockets like that could be partnered with, to be able to reduce cost of this.
Fantastic. Dr. Batim?
Okay, what do we deal with here? The Constitution of Nigeria recognizes that governors are the chief security officers of their states. They run security council meetings, of which all the federal agents domiciled in their states are in those states. But the governor of a state does not have any power over the police. The federal, the state, that's the federal government, in the person of the President of the Federation, I think under sections 271 to 274 of the Constitution, says that what Nigeria runs is a federal police. And we have seen in various security challenges that we have had in the country, either on the plateau or in the southeast or in the northwest or in the north central or wherever, the fact that these governors are handicapped. This is what has led to the agitation for state police, with the governors saying if they are given more powers to ensure security in their immediate environment, national security will be better secured, if I may use that expression. However, the argument for state police did not start today. It started as far back as 70 years ago, as Professor Tekena Tamuno pointed out to us in his book on the police in modern Nigeria, tracing the history of the police in modern Nigeria from 1861 to 1965. I'll try to summarize very quickly because academic analysis may be a bit difficult for some people. The northern police, they had local police, no native authority. Awolowo in the southwest wanted regional police. The East, at that time, wanted a federally controlled police. Yeah. But we have evolved in this conversation. The evolution in the conversation is captured more in Professor Kemi Rotimi's book titled The Police in a Federal State, the Nigerian Experience. That's the second book on the matter. Now, this president, Bola Tinubu himself, has written a book on what he calls liberalism, democratic liberalism, or the struggle for federalism. And in that book, he also talked about state police. Now, I'm trying to establish a background that this has been a 70-year-old subject in Nigeria. Now, in 2014, the national conference that was organized by the Jonathan administration also decided that there should be state police. But that report of that national political conference by the Jonathan administration was set aside completely by the Buhari administration. It is therefore now interesting that the Tinubu administration is returning to that same important subject. He himself, being an exponent of state police, you can imagine how this will end, because he has consistently defended the idea of state police in his book and even as governor in Lagos State. And part of the requirement for this process to fall through is for the president to give his assent. But before the president can give his assent, 2/3 of the state houses of assembly must endorse. Now in May 2024, speakers of the houses of assembly agreed that they also want state police. You see the evolution from 70 years ago to this moment. So if it goes through, as Governor Kaduna State has told us, he says 36 states have already endorsed. Only the Federal Capital Territory is remaining. So we already have 2/3. 2/3 of 36 states is 24. So it looks like state police is an idea that has come. What is remaining is the legislative process. And I've already defined the legislative process. But the big question is that these state governors, being politicians, would they not abuse state police? Would they not use state police against their political opponents? When we get to that bridge, I guess Nigeria will have to cross it.
Yes, absolutely, Doctor. You're right. That's been one of the biggest concerns around state police, despite the many calls from different quarters as to the advantages. And like has been highlighted earlier, some states have actually made the move without, officially being state police to have some sort of security architecture for their state as a result of some of the peculiarities that they face in security challenges in their state. We talked about Ondo State, talked about the east, southeast. We talked about the north as well. Now, over the years, different regions have had different positions with regards to state police. The West, the Southwest, has traditionally, quite from the time of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, has been quite in support of state police. As he said, in order to achieve true federalism, this also has to include putting the responsibility of policing in the hands of the region. So states and regional, regions should have the responsibility to for caretaking of their security. This hasn't been the case, as we know, thus far. With the Southeast, it's always been mixed reactions, maybe not concerns around and fears around politicians or even political parties using the police, using state police as a tool against their political enemies. So these are some of the challenges that have come up. The North as well has been mixed over the years as to whether or not they'd like to, go with state police. But now it looks like in 2024, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself, for many years, for decades, for about a decade, has been in support of state police. And so with regards to the assent from the president, that should be one of the easiest parts of the process, because he has always, quite been in support of this. Now with the state governors saying that they are in support, at least largely, according to Governor Ubasani, are in support of this, it means that by January 2025, when they reconvene and have this conversation tabled at NEC, it might just very well be that it would be the beginning of the process of the realization of state police. What this means is that now, states would now have responsibility. The argument for this is that people who live in the local community have a better understanding of the terrain and understanding of how security should work for their own state, which when it's at the federal level is far removed from the people. So in that way, an advantage. But the nitty-gritty of it, and this is where I would suggest that as it's done in other parts of the world, there should be a committee involving different stakeholders, from the religious leaders to community leaders to stakeholders in the community, to form a security committee that would have some sort of oversight and say in the way that the police is run. We're hoping for a stronger, policing in Nigeria, and hopefully that when it comes down to the states, it would work better in the end for effective policing of Nigeria and less corruption at that level. So we'll watch and see and definitely bring you updates on this.